Welcome to this deep dive. We're going to be looking at Darren Hardy's The Compound Effect.
Okay.
And we're going to be exploring this idea that seemingly small, consistent actions
Right.
can create really massive success over time. And I think this is fascinating
Yeah.
because, so many of us, we want that quick fix.
Oh, yeah.
But this is really challenging us to rethink our approach to
Absolutely.
achieving our goals.
It really does shift your perspective. I think, we get caught up in those quick fixes.
Yeah.
And this book really reminds us that it's built brick by brick,
Yeah.
choice by choice, day after day.
It's not some magic overnight transformation.
Right.
It's about this power of compounding, right?
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like that penny analogy that, doubles in value every day for a month.
Yeah. Okay.
In the beginning, it seems insignificant
Yeah.
compared to getting, that lump sum of money.
Sure.
But that consistent growth over time leads to a much greater result. And Hardy, I think, really drives this point home with this example of the three friends,
Yeah.
Larry, Scott, and Brad.
You're right. Yeah, the friends who start out in very similar situations,
Yeah,
but end up in dramatically different places because of their daily choices.
exactly.
So can you kind of walk us through how those tiny decisions played out over time?
Absolutely. So we've got Larry, who makes no changes.
Yeah.
He just stays stagnant.
Okay.
But then you have Brad, who's got these seemingly harmless indulgences.
Right.
He's skipping a workout or he's, overeating.
Yeah.
And he actually ends up worse off
Wow.
after 31 months.
Okay.
So he gains weight, he faces problems at work, his relationships suffer.
So even those small things can have a cumulative effect.
Oh yeah, it's a stark reminder that inaction or negative actions, even small ones, can compound over time.
And then there's Scott, he intentionally incorporates small positive changes into his routine.
Yes, Scott decides to, cut 125 calories from his diet per day
Okay.
and then reads 10 pages of a book
Okay.
before bed.
These are things anybody could do.
Exactly. Anyone can do this.
Yeah.
But look at the impact. After those 31 months, it's incredible.
Yeah.
He loses weight, he gets a promotion, his relationships flourish.
It's so interesting because it really does underscore this idea that consistent small improvements can lead to significant positive change.
Yes.
But, I think for me, it's very compelling, but it's also a bit daunting.
Yeah.
Because how do we ensure that we make those good choices consistently?
Right.
Especially when we're faced with all these daily temptations and
Right.
distractions and, things that are going to pull us off track.
And that's where I think this idea of taking radical responsibility for our choices comes in.
Okay.
And Hardy actually tells a story about a business deal gone wrong early in his career,
Yeah.
where he had to learn this lesson the hard way.
The one where his business partner made some, unethical decisions.
Yes.
Mhm.
And Hardy realized that he had the choice to vet his partner more thoroughly beforehand. And owning that mistake, as uncomfortable as it was, gave him the power to approach future decisions more strategically.
So it seems like this concept of radical responsibility
Yeah.
is crucial for the compound effect to work.
I think so.
It's about acknowledging that we have the power to choose.
Yes.
Even when things feel out of our control.
Absolutely. It's so empowering because it shifts our mindset from, being a victim of circumstance
Yeah.
to becoming the architect of our own lives.
love that.
And when we embrace that responsibility, then we're ready to really tackle those building blocks
Yeah.
of the compound effect, our habits.
Right. And Hardy describes habits as those, automatic actions we do every day.
Yeah.
Often without even thinking about them.
Oh,
They're like software running in the background of our minds,
They are.
shaping our behavior and ultimately our outcome.
Precisely. And like any software, they can be, helpful or harmful,
Right.
depending on how they're programmed.
Yeah.
Think about Hardy's analogy of that plane flying just 1 degree off course.
Oh, yeah.
Might seem insignificant
Yeah.
at first,
Yeah.
but over time, that small deviation leads to a drastically different destination.
That's a great analogy because it really does show
Yeah.
that even those seemingly minor habits can have a major impact
Right.
on our trajectory.
Absolutely.
But I think the question is, how do we identify those habits that need tweaking,
Yeah.
especially since they often operate on autopilot?
That is the question. And I think one way is to just take an honest inventory
Okay.
of your daily routines and actions.
Yeah.
And really ask yourself, is this action moving me closer to my goals or further away?
That makes sense.
And think about, those areas where you might be slightly off course.
But then breaking bad habits and establishing good ones can be incredibly challenging.
Oh, yeah.
So what are some of Hardy's strategies for tackling this?
Well, he recommends starting small.
Okay.
Instead of trying to overhaul your entire life overnight,
Right.
just focus on changing one habit at a time. And the key here is consistency.
Right.
Making small, sustainable changes that you can stick with over time.
And I think that idea of, focusing on what you're adding into your life rather than what you're taking away really resonated with me.
Yes, that's the add-in principle, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, instead of beating yourself up for craving that cookie, focus on adding in a healthy, delicious alternative, like a piece of fruit.
Okay.
Or a handful of nuts. It's a subtle mental shift.
Yeah.
But it can make all the difference in how we approach those challenging habits.
So it's about reframing our thinking and finding ways to make healthy choices more appealing.
Exactly.
What else does Hardy recommend for creating that lasting habit change?
Well, he also emphasizes the importance of having a clear why behind your desired change.
So understanding the deeper reason for wanting to adopt that new habit.
Yes, because that provides the motivation to push through those moments of resistance.
That makes sense. It's easier to stay committed when you're emotionally connected to that goal.
Yeah.
But, even with a clear why, it can be tough to stay on track.
Absolutely. And that's why Hardy recommends making your intentions public.
Okay.
Tell your friends or family about your goal.
Oh, right.
Because it creates a sense of accountability.
Yeah.
And can provide a support system
to
cheer you on.
I like that.
And he also suggests finding an accountability partner.
Okay.
Someone who's also working on a habit change.
Oh, okay.
And can offer that encouragement and support.
It's like having a teammate in your corner.
Exactly.
Someone who understands the challenges and can help you stay motivated.
Yes. And don't forget to celebrate those small wins along the way.
Oh, yeah.
Recognize your progress no matter how small it is.
Right.
It helps reinforce that positive behavior and keeps you motivated.
So we've covered the power of compounding, the importance of radical responsibility, and the strategies for building those positive habits.
Right.
But how does all of this lead to that snowball effect of success that Hardy describes?
That brings us to the exciting part, momentum, or as Hardy calls it, Big Mo.
Okay.
And that's what we're going to delve into in the next part of our deep dive.
All right. So stay tuned. We'll be right back to explore how to harness the power of momentum and accelerate those results.
All right.
So we're back and ready to kind of explore how we can build on those consistent actions and really amplify, our results. It's time to talk about momentum.
Yes, momentum, one of the most powerful, I think, aspects of the compound effect.
Yeah.
Hardy refers to it as Big Mo.
Okay.
And it's essentially that feeling of things falling into place.
Right.
Once you've built up that, those consistent positive actions.
And he uses this analogy, I think, of pushing a merry-go-round.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of effort to get it moving initially.
Right.
But once it gains momentum,
right,
it becomes much easier to keep it spinning.
Exactly. It's the same with our goals. Those initial steps toward change often require the most effort.
Yeah.
We're battling ingrained habits.
Yeah.
We're facing that internal resistance.
Yeah.
Maybe even, dealing with external doubts from other people.
Correct.
But as we persevere and those small actions start to accumulate, we reach this tipping point.
It's like we break through that initial barrier.
Yes.
And things start to flow more effortlessly.
Precisely. And Hardy also uses the analogy of a rocket ship launching into space.
Oh, yeah.
It expends a tremendous amount of fuel in those first few minutes.
Right.
Just to break free of Earth's gravity. But once it reaches that escape velocity, it can essentially coast.
Oh, wow.
Covering vast distances with minimal effort.
So those initial efforts are so crucial.
They are.
For creating that momentum that propels us forward.
Yes.
It's about pushing through that initial resistance.
Right.
Knowing that it will eventually become easier. But what about, those times when we feel stuck?
Yeah.
Like we're pushing that merry-go-round?
Yeah.
And it's just not budging?
Those are the moments when it's important to remember, I think.
Yeah.
The power of acceleration.
Okay.
It's about finding ways to multiply our results.
Okay, yeah.
To give ourselves that extra boost.
Right.
That can help us break through those plateaus and reach new heights.
And Hardy talks about going beyond our perceived limitations, pushing past our comfort zones, even cheating a little to get those extra reps in during a workout.
He uses that weight training analogy to illustrate how pushing, beyond our perceived limits forces our muscles to adapt and grow stronger.
Okay.
It's about challenging ourselves to do a little more
Right.
than we think we're capable of.
I like that. And that makes me think of Richard Branson.
Yes.
Who Hardy highlights as a master of exceeding expectations.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he's always looking for ways to wow people.
He is.
And create these memorable experiences.
Yes. Branson understands that in a world saturated with information,
right.
It's not enough to just be good.
Yeah.
You have to be exceptional. You have to stand out from the crowd.
Yeah.
He launched Virgin Cola by driving a tank down Fifth Avenue in New York City.
Right.
That's definitely not your average product launch.
No, it's not.
No.
So it's about finding those opportunities to create a splash.
Yeah.
To go above and beyond what's expected.
Right.
To make people take notice.
Precisely. It's about bringing that sense of creativity and audacity to our efforts.
But sometimes I think, those grand gestures can feel overwhelming.
Yeah.
What about those of us who aren't quite ready to drive a tank down Fifth Avenue?
It's important to remember that acceleration, doesn't have to be about those big splashy moments.
Okay.
It can also be about, finding small ways to exceed expectations.
Right.
In our everyday lives. Perhaps it's, going the extra mile for a client at work.
Yeah.
Surprising a loved one with a thoughtful gesture.
Okay.
Or simply putting in
Yeah.
a little extra effort on a project
Yeah.
that we're passionate about.
It's about finding those opportunities to do more than the bare minimum.
Yes.
To go beyond what's required and to deliver a level of excellence.
Right.
That makes a difference.
Exactly. And those small acts of going for wow can have this ripple effect.
Right.
Creating this positive upward spiral in our lives.
So we've got the power of compounding.
Right.
The importance of radical responsibility,
Yes.
the strategies for building those positive habits,
Right.
and now these concepts of momentum and acceleration.
Yes.
But Hardy also emphasizes that our success is significantly impacted by external factors, right?
Absolutely. Even with the best intentions and the most disciplined habits.
Yeah.
If our environment is working against us,
Right.
it can be very difficult to achieve our goals.
Yeah.
He calls these external factors influences,
Okay.
and he breaks them down into 3 categories: input, associations, and environment.
Okay, let's start with input.
Okay, so input refers to the information we feed our minds.
Okay.
The content we consume,
Yeah.
the conversations we engage in,
Right.
the messages we allow ourselves to be exposed to.
And it seems like we're just bombarded with information. We
Okay.
are from all sides these days.
It's true. We live in this world of information overload,
Yeah.
and much of it is what Hardy calls mental junk food.
Mental junk food. I like that.
It's the negativity, the drama, the sensationalized headlines
Yeah.
that grab our attention,
Right.
but don't actually provide any real value.
And it's so easy to get sucked into that vortex of negativity.
It is.
So how do we protect ourselves from this mental junk food
Right.
and ensure that we're feeding our minds with nourishing content?
Well, Hardy suggests creating a media diet.
Okay, a media diet.
Yeah, it's about being mindful
Okay.
of what we allow into our minds.
Right.
And consciously choosing to limit or eliminate exposure
Yeah.
to negative or unproductive information.
Yeah. So that might mean being more selective about the news we consume.
Yeah.
Unsubscribing from certain social media feeds.
Right. Yeah.
Or even just, being more aware of the conversations we choose to participate in.
Exactly. It's about creating boundaries
Yeah.
and protecting our mental space
Right.
from that constant influx of negativity
Right.
that can drain our energy and sabotage our efforts.
But it's not just about eliminating the bad stuff.
No.
It's also about actively seeking out positive,
Yes.
inspiring, and uplifting content.
Absolutely. It's about feeding our minds with information
Right.
that supports our growth,
Yeah.
expands our perspectives, and fuels our motivation.
So that might involve reading books by authors who inspire us,
Yes.
listening to podcasts that explore topics we're passionate about,
Right.
or even just consciously engaging in conversations that are positive and uplifting.
It's about making that conscious effort
Yeah.
to cultivate what's called an abundance mindset,
An abundance mindset.
a belief that, there's enough for everyone, that opportunities abound, and that we have the power to create the lives we desire.
So we've talked about input. What about the second influence, associations?
Okay, so associations are the people we surround ourselves with.
Okay.
Our friends, our family, our colleagues, our mentors,
Right.
even the people we follow on social media.
Yeah.
And Hardy emphasizes that the people we spend the most time with
Right.
have a profound impact
Yeah.
on our choices, our behaviors, and ultimately our success or failure in life.
And he even cites research suggesting that our social circle can determine as much as 95% of our success or failure.
That's pretty staggering.
That's huge.
It is.
So while it's not about, judging people or cutting ties with anyone who doesn't perfectly align with our goals, it is about being aware of the influence those relationships have on us.
It is.
It's about asking ourselves whether those relationships are energizing or draining.
Yes.
Whether they're supporting our growth or holding us back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if we find that, some of our relationships are more detrimental than beneficial, it might be time to create some healthy boundaries or even to distance ourselves from those individuals.
Right.
On the flip side, it's equally important to cultivate those relationships with people who inspire us, who challenge us, who support our growth.
Yeah.
Those are the people who will celebrate our wins with us, offer encouragement when we face setbacks, and hold us accountable to our goals.
And Hardy suggests finding what he calls a peak performance partner.
Yes.
Someone who's equally committed to personal growth.
Yes.
And can offer, that support, motivation, and accountability along the way.
It's like having a teammate on your journey to success.
Right.
Someone who understands your goals and is there to help you navigate those challenges and celebrate the victories.
So we've covered input and associations. What about the third influence, environment?
Okay, so environment refers to the physical spaces we inhabit. Our homes, our workplaces, our communities, even the cities we live in.
Yeah. It's amazing how much our surroundings can impact our mood, our energy levels, and even our behavior.
Yeah. Think about it. Cluttered spaces can lead to a cluttered mind.
Right.
Drab surroundings can sap our motivation.
Yeah.
Uninspiring environments can stifle our creativity.
So it's crucial to create environments that support the outcomes we desire.
It is.
What are some ways we can do that?
Well, it might involve decluttering our homes.
Okay.
Adding plants or artwork to our workspaces.
Okay.
Or even just, ensuring that we have designated spaces for workexation, for creative pursuits.
It's about being intentional about the energy we want to cultivate in our surroundings and ensuring that our environment is working for us, not against us.
Exactly.
This reminds me of that concept of, environmental design, where you consciously arrange your physical space to support your goals and habits. For example, if you're trying to eat healthier, you might make sure that healthy snacks are readily available and visible while keeping, less healthy options out of sight.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
It's about, creating an environment that makes it easier to make those good choices.
Right.
And harder to fall back into those old patterns.
So we've explored how input associations and environment can significantly impact our progress.
They do.
But how do we tie all of this together and actually start implementing these principles in our lives?
Right.
I mean, I'm ready to take action, but it feels like a lot to process.
It's true. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
But the beauty of the compound effect is that it's about taking those small, consistent steps.
Okay.
You don't have to do everything at once.
So where should we start?
Right.
What are some key takeaways that we can implement right now to get the compound effect working for us?
That's a great question, and one we'll address when we return for the final part of this deep dive.
All right, so we're back, and, we've really covered a lot of ground in our exploration of the compound effect, from the power of small choices to the importance of habits, momentum acceleration, and the influences that shape our lives.
Absolutely.
It's been quite a journey, but now it's time to bring it all together.
Right.
And talk about how to translate this knowledge into tangible action.
I agree.
We've learned about the theory, but now we're ready for that how-to guide.
Yeah.
Where do we start?
Well, I think throughout this deep dive, one theme has consistently emerged.
Okay.
And it's taking ownership of our choices and their consequences.
Yeah.
That's the foundation of the compound effect.
It's that idea of radical responsibility that we talked about.
It is.
It's about acknowledging we have the power to choose our actions.
Yes.
Even when circumstances feel challenging.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's about shifting from a mindset of blame and victimhood to one of empowerment and ownership.
I like that.
Once we embrace that responsibility, then we're ready to start setting those clear, specific goals that will guide our actions.
And Hardy's a big proponent of SMART goals.
Yes.
Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound.
Yes.
And he emphasizes the importance of writing them down.
Oh, yeah.
And regularly reviewing our progress.
That's so important.
So, having those goals clearly defined gives us a roadmap for our journey.
It does.
It's like having a destination in mind.
Yeah.
When we set out on a road trip, without that destination, we'd just be driving aimlessly.
Exactly.
And once we've established those goals, it's time to identify the habits that will support us in achieving them.
Right.
And this is where that concept of starting small and being consistent comes into play.
Yes, remember Scott?
Oh, yeah.
The friend from Hardy's example?
Right.
He achieved such remarkable results simply by cutting a small number of calories each day and reading a few pages before bed.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's a reminder that even those seemingly insignificant actions can have a significant impact over time.
So it's about finding those small wins.
Yes.
That we can stack on top of each other day after day.
Exactly.
Until we reach that desired destination.
And as we cultivate those positive habits, we start to build momentum.
Yeah.
Those initial efforts, which might have felt challenging at first, gradually become easier as we gain traction.
It's like that feeling of the flywheel finally starting to spin.
Yes.
It takes effort to get it moving, but once it gains momentum, it becomes easier and easier to keep it going.
And as we experience that momentum, we can start to look for opportunities to accelerate our progress.
And that's about pushing beyond our comfort zones, exceeding expectations.
Yes.
Finding those moments where we can truly wow people.
It's about injecting, a bit of that creativity and audacity into our efforts.
Yeah.
Just like Richard Branson did with his Virgin Cola launch.
Right, and we can find ways to go for wow in our own lives, whether it's in our careers or relationships, or even just in our personal pursuits.
Exactly.
And as we make those efforts to accelerate our progress, we also need to be mindful of the influences that are shaping our choices.
Absolutely. We talked about the importance of curating our input.
Yeah.
Ensuring that we're feeding our minds with nourishing content rather than mental junk food.
Right.
We discussed the impact of our associations.
Yeah.
Surrounding ourselves with people who inspire us, support our growth, and hold us accountable to our goals.
It's so important.
And we explored the power of our environment.
Right.
Creating spaces that nurture our well-being.
Yeah.
Support our habits and fuel our motivation.
I think this has been so valuable.
Me too.
Because all of these factors, our choices, our habits, our momentum, our acceleration, and the influences that surround us, they all come together to create the compound effect.
It's a powerful concept. That reminds us that we are the architects of our own lives, and that even the smallest actions can have a profound impact over time.
So as we conclude this deep dive into the compound effect, we leave you with a simple but profound question. What is one small action you can take right now to put the compound effect to work for you?
Maybe it's setting a specific goal.
Yeah.
Identifying a habit you want to change. Reaching out to a mentor. Or decluttering your workspace.
Whatever it is, take that action and trust the process.
I agree.
The compound effect is always at work.
It is.
Shaping our lives with every choice we make.
Every choice.
So choose wisely, act consistently, and watch as those small steps compound over time.
Yes.
Leading you to a destination far greater than you ever thought possible.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.